We all step onto the board with a different set of pieces. Some inherit immediate wealth and unbreakable connections, while others are handed poverty and total obscurity. There is no cosmic fairness to the hand you are dealt at birth. But beneath those external circumstances, the raw machinery is exactly the same. Every single one of us arrives as a blank slate. You are born as the physical embodiment of pure, unallocated potential, carrying a distinct internal spark. The trap is believing that your starting conditions dictate your final worth. Society loves to weigh these initial circumstances and stamp a permanent price tag on your future, but that metric is entirely fabricated. Extreme poverty or immense wealth merely represent the raw material sitting on your workbench. This friction, the resistance of your specific reality, provides the exact pressure needed to ignite your internal spark. Look at this comparison between a $100 bill and a penny. A penny is forged from physical metal and costs about 1.5 cents to produce. The $100 bill is just paper, costing a fraction of that to print. Yet one holds 1,000 times the purchasing power of the other. The difference is purely psychological. We simply agree, as a collective, to assign the paper bill more weight. If society can will that $100 into existence through collective belief, then your personal worth is just as flexible, provided you are the one setting the price. Because value is applied, not inherent, the power of perception sits entirely within your own mind. A massive failure or a brutal setback isn't objectively good or bad. It becomes a crushing detriment or a vital lesson based entirely on how you frame it. The coordinates of your birth do not lock in your final destination. To move forward, you have to strip away society's initial assessment and become the sole, ruthless appraiser of your own capabilities. Once you reclaim your value, you have to audit your current reality. You need to figure out exactly which pieces you can move. If your aim is to play professional soccer, you don't start by analyzing a championship final. You take a bird's-eye view of your immediate surroundings and locate the actionable steps you can take today. You find a ball, you find a patch of grass, and you train your endurance. Staring at the highlights of people who have already reached the summit is a guaranteed way to paralyze yourself. Comparing your step 1 to their step 10 breeds resentment and separates you from the actual work required to close the gap. The reps you put in right now, in total obscurity, are the only variables that matter. Your discipline as an absolute amateur is the sole predictor of whether you will ever step on to the professional stage. This requires a brutal, unflinching honesty. You have to strip away your ego, recognize the exact limits of your current tools, and build a foundation of deep self-awareness before you take a single step forward. But movement requires a direction, and to find that, you need to understand the difference between a dream and a goal. A dream is a hazy wish. A goal is a tangible destination. You hit it or miss it. To keep that goal from floating away into fantasy, you have to anchor it. You take all your sprawling ambitions and aggressively boil them down into one single crystal clear picture in your mind. That specific image becomes your northern star. It acts as an absolute orientation point, cutting through daily distractions. When friction threatens your momentum, locking your focus entirely on that finish line is the mechanism that will keep you moving. By defining this strict orientation point, you create a psychological filter. It strips away the noise of your starting circumstances and channels your chaotic, raw potential into a focused, unstoppable beam of action. Defining that northern star changes the way you process every event. You stop seeing the world as a sequence of random collisions and start recognizing it as a responsive system. When your thoughts are focused, the events around you cease to be accidents and begin to look like feedback. Your thoughts are the direct governor of your physical movements, and as the basic laws of physics dictate, every single action you commit produces an equal and opposite reaction. The energy you inject into the system determines exactly what bounces back. If you convince yourself that the world is actively conspiring against you, your reality will warp to match that filter, turning every minor inconvenience into a personal attack. But if you view existence as an arena built for your improvement, these identical obstacles suddenly become the exact stepping stones you need to climb higher. When you refuse to take responsibility for the thoughts you generate, you surrender your agency. You willingly trap yourself in a chaotic, random existence where success seems entirely a matter of luck. The system is ultimately a massive, infinite feedback loop. It's an echo chamber. If you shout your grievances, pain, and victimhood into the void, the universe will faithfully reflect that exact misery back at you. But the inverse is also true. When you project deliberate purpose, an attitude of gratitude, and a clearly defined goal into that same space, the signal changes. The echo that returns is dense with resources, connections, and paths forward. By ruthlessly filtering your perceptions, assigning your own value, and aligning your actions with a singular northern star, the equation flips. You stop being a victim of your circumstances, and you start architecting the world you actually want to inhabit.